Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, that brings us to number 2. Are there any adjustments or additions to the agenda this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to have a committee form to install standard or percentage-based grading system for homework assignments, tests, and community grade per semester year per trustee Hurley's suggestion at the last meeting, if we could put that under new business.
Hey, Bob, will not add that to the agenda this evening. We are going to discuss that at the end of the meeting, though. Are there any other adjustments or additions?
I do not have any adjustments for that.
Okay, we need to adopt the agenda with any addenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Our agenda has been adopted. We'll now move down to letter B, board discussion of calendar options for the 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Chairman Sessions and members of the board, Mr. Kramer. Our data has not changed significantly since our meeting on Thursday. So the data that you received on Thursday is unchanged or only slightly. So I'll share my screen. So the thumbs out.
I guess once I go to us.
Our calendar survey was conducted from the period of January 27th through February 13th. Our student survey, we had 475 responses. Torrington Middle School was our strongest response rate. 66% strongly or somewhat favor a 4-day calendar. 22.3 strongly or somewhat favor a balanced calendar. Our parent survey, we had 590 responses. Again, Torrington Schools was our highest response rate, which this is in keeping with our population. Our schools are most populated here in Torrington. This is a slide that you did not see last time. I wanted to present it simply to show you that the parental response was fairly equitable across all grade levels of students in the school. Of our staff survey, we had 153 responses. Again, Torrington High School, which is again in keeping with our number of personnel at higher in Torrington schools. 73% of those folks strongly favor or somewhat favor. And 19% were in favor of a balanced calendar. So very little change from our last from Thursday night. I would entertain any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Laura regarding the survey?
I don't have a question, Mr. Chair, but I think this is a place that I would actually like to just make a short comment, if I may. So what I would like to be able to say actually doesn't necessarily pertain to the survey or, it actually has to deal with the fact that I've actually been to a few of these public meetings. I've been to all of the public meetings, and I would just like to say regarding this issue, I certainly appreciate the manner in which everyone conducted themselves. The way in which we receive, and again, I'm only speaking for myself, the way in which we received the information from those that are for it and those that are against it was so, it was nice. I was able to actually take in the information that was said at these meetings and not necessarily focus on how it was given, but what was said. And I like to just be able to actually point out that I truly appreciate everybody's involvement. I want to actually specifically talk to the committee and appreciate your time that you gave to actually put into this effort. However it goes, I just want to say I am honored to be able to actually work with you all on this. But I also am proud of all of us that we were able to come together and we were able to do this in a very civil manner. So I truly appreciate everybody and everybody that wasn't here tonight. But those that came in the other meeting, I truly appreciate the way it was given. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments about the calendar committee or the survey? Okay. If not, we will move on to letter C, information and proposals. Number one is our report from our student representatives to the board, and their topic this month was the calendar.
Should have some slack in. No, you're good. You can just pull it towards us so you can speak right up to it.
Is it on? Okay. My name is Sydney Mueller. I am a junior at Southeast High School. And recently, when we have been discussing the calendar, more specifically the 4-day calendar, all of our students and staff members, the majority have been in favor of the 4-day week. Staff members have recently been required to take more and more of their classwork home rather than working on it when they are within school hours. This is cutting into their own personal time, and if we bring the 4-day calendar that was proposed, this would give our teachers a more efficient way to get their work done within the school rather than having to take it home and do it over the weekend. One of our teachers that is fairly new to Southeast has come from a 4-day school and has said that the performance from the students has increased by drastic amounts and seeing grades go up. Our students would have a more efficient enrichment opportunities than what is currently in place. Athletes would no longer have to miss school to attend events, thus keeping them from getting behind the rest of their classmates. Students would no longer have to worry about attending after-school enrichment when they have after-school jobs, the inability to have a ride home, or athletes missing practices due to missing assignments. As for the balanced calendar, it's been pretty mixed. We have had about, I'd say about 50-50. Some people would think that it would be beneficial for our school. Others say that it would be very confusing for students. And we haven't really talked about the trimester system, seeing as that we are a smaller school and it would just kind of make our schedules more confusing.
Okay, my name is Jordan Napier and I'm a junior at Fort Laramie High School. Our topic this month was obviously the 4-day school week, and we were wondering how it will affect our students. So I went around and asked students in our school what their opinion was on it. Not only did we get results that way, but we also got the data that was shown earlier. And we also got shown that data by Mr. Kramer on a scheduled Zoom meeting on Friday, February 10th, 2023. When looking at the data, it was very obvious what all of the schools wanted, or the majority wanted. Reading through the comments, there were many concerns from people who were against a 4-day school week. Some asked about our elementary and middle school students. I would like to voice some concerns. Talking to some of our local Fort Laramie elementary staff, I realized that our elementary kids already struggled to get through the school day as it is. We went to a 4-day week. Our days would get extended, going from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. schedule to an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. schedule can be hard to adapt to. I am not sure if we have a solution to this yet, but where would kids go on Fridays when their parents work? Middle school activities are usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well, meaning our middle school students would miss more school than our high school students. I was made aware though that Fridays will be optional catch-up days. If kids are failing classes or need extra help, they can come in on those Fridays. Now that I've voiced our concerns, let's talk about pros and cons. A 30-minute longer day could be helpful. I've talked with these students and teachers, and they have talked about using the extra time to bring back flex. If you don't know what flex is, it's a 30-minute time period at the end of the day where kids can meet with teachers and catch up on homework or missing assignments. This would be a good use of our extra time. Looking at sports and games, they are usually scheduled on Fridays. Athletes have other games throughout the week, but Fridays are the most popular. When our teams have games, we always have a huge number of students and staff members gone. Teachers usually don't do anything on Fridays because of how many kids are gone anyways. Taking the Friday school day could also be more rewarding. The thought of a 3-day weekend always sounds great for a student. This gives us more time to socialize and spend time with others. This may also help with students' mental health, as it can be a break from school where they can relax and re-energize. I'm not against or for the 4-day school week, but I am here to voice our opinion as a school of Lincoln Fort Laramie. In majority, we are for 4-day school week. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, Mason Willis was going to be here as a representative of BRS, but he was accepted as the all Northwest choir group earlier this year. And he was planning on leaving tomorrow, but due to the weather, he actually took off early, but he did have a number of things in the conversation that he talked about, but nothing specific to share. I wish him well, and certainly represents Goshen County and the Northwest all choir groups. So congratulations to him for that. And unfortunately, the weather gets annoying some more, I think. It'll leave a little bit.
Okay. We will now move down to number 2, which is a report on the WSBA Legislative Forum by Trustee Alexander, who I believe traveled down to that.
Okay, on February 5th and 6th, I went down to Cheyenne for the WSBA Legislative Forum, and that's exactly what it was, and it was legislature. When we got there, we kind of navigated the legislature's website to see how to go in and look what bills they were working on, and any amendments that were being done to them. We looked at the budget, education bills, and then we started going over a list of many bills that would affect school districts. And we went through those bills, especially the highlighted ones and everything, and discussed what was in favor for the schools, what was not in favor for the schools. And that was pretty much the whole day was spent on going through all these bills. After that, on Sunday, that was a Sunday afternoon. Later on that day, they had a reception for legislatures and school board members, administration. It was all school board members, administration. I didn't see any legislature there, but I'm sure they were getting ready for the session on Monday. That night I went home and came back on Monday, and we had a meeting then with the Senate, and they had the education committee that I went into. And they were going over bills, that would affect, mostly colleges, is what they were discussing today that I was there. We had different people there that were advocating for those bills or for amendments on those bills. After that, the governor had a signing in the conference room, or proclamation signing. And then at 10 o'clock, we went to the Senate and the House floors and got to visit with some of our representatives, but I was watching them do their work and their legislation they were doing. And left there, a little after lunchtime. So that was basically what we did, is we watched legislation and how it was happening and some of the bills that were affecting schools.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move down to number 3, which is school presentation and artwork in the boardroom by Southeast Schools. We're obviously not in the boardroom, so the artwork is at the boardroom.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. Thank you, board, for allowing us to present, or I will say us, for allowing these ladies to present. Tim Williams, principal at Southeast Schools. Lucky enough to have these 4 individuals here to present tonight. All teachers in the elementary at Southeast, and they all do a tremendous job. So they're going to give a presentation on the letters class that they've been taking this year and last.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us tonight. We're excited to be here to present on a professional development course that we are taking currently. Oh, we're going to move. Oh, wait. My name is Beth Correa, and I am an intervention teacher at Southeast Elementary School. And I'm here tonight with Renee Williams, our kindergarten teacher, Teresa Logston, our first grade teacher, and Molly Brown, our literacy interventionist at Southeast. We're happy to be here to talk to you on behalf of our school about an amazing course that we're taking along with our second grade teacher and our special education teacher at Southeast Elementary, called Letters. This course focuses on how to most effectively teach kids to read using the scientific evidence of how the brain works, which we'll dive into more throughout our presentation.
All right, so as Mrs. Curry just said, my name is Molly Brown. I'm not much of a slide reader, so I'm going to leave that up to you, and I will just kind of add some information in here as we go. So one of the most important things that we're learning as we're taking this class through Letters is that informed teachers are changing lives. We are broadening our understanding of what is most important for students to be successful in reading and writing. We are also coming with the understanding that we know that teachers are the absolute most important factor for students to be successful with reading and writing. There are educational experiences that we as teachers can provide that can't come from a device, that can't come from students sitting on a computer and learning in a virtual setting, including like instant feedback. Here's things we can work on, and the information that we can best learn from that is by giving the teachers the tool to be able to teach their students to learn in the ways that we know that they can be successful. So this slide here, if updated, it did, is essentially talking about Our brains are not wired to read. It's pretty complicated, actually. So reading requires multiple parts of the brain. That can include the occipital lobe, which would be our visual stimulus, the fusiform gyrus, which is essentially the letterbox inside your brain. It sits at the back, and including the frontal and temporal lobe. If you didn't know what these terms are, we didn't either until we started taking this class. And essentially what happens is these parts of the brain work together to work out meaning and pronunciation of words, as well as usage of when it's appropriate to use those words. Something important that I think is in this slide is that understanding that a lot of institutions are not fully preparing educators to teach kids to read. It's giving you more of the foundation of how to provide or teach a lesson, not necessarily how the lesson informs learning. So really right now, there's only about 50% of institutions effectively preparing teachers. And that's because there's new information that's being adopted and implemented. And as we know in education, that all takes time, okay? So research is also showing right now that across America, not this district, so I don't want those data points to be skewed, but across America, only 35% of students are reading proficiently. It's also shown that with the way that the brain is developed, a total of 95% of students can be capable of reading. And so this course that we're taking is teaching us how we can reach those students. And it's deepening our understanding of the science of how we learn to read and all the components that follows with that, phonemic and phonological awareness, and how those skills lead to overall comprehension.
So a lot of these things are going to reiterate or reinforce what Molly just said, but letters training has really bridged the decades of evidence-based research into classroom practices or classroom successes. Some of the top points that come from letters are prior college coursework has been insufficient to prepare teachers to teach literacy effectively. It's important that teachers have compatible coaching and peer support. Teaching reading is rocket science. The brain is not wired to read naturally, and so teachers need instruction to know how to properly instruct that brain to read. Language structures and development are actually missing in foundational courses that teachers take, which letters provide. Phonemic awareness and phonics are major components for which teachers often need more training. Letters provide that. Acquiring deep knowledge of reading instruction that takes time and much more than most institutions provide. When teachers know more, students learn more. When general education and intervention teachers learn and apply the information that we get from letters in a supportive atmosphere, it can have powerful effects on our students' learning.
All right, so this slide here is going to give you a graphic of the beginning units of letters. These are going to be the units that I am in currently, and then future in the presentation, you'll see what the rest of our staff is currently working on. I'm just starting. So this shows that letters has 8 units essentially. So the first part of the course, which is the first 4 units, is essentially teaching teachers why reading is difficult and how their reading brain works, as I mentioned before. It takes a lot of brain function in order to read. And when teachers understand how we learn to read, it's truly helping us diagnose onset issues or in the moment issues that we haven't learned before. These additional or these beginning 40 units teach us about the challenge of reading, the speed sounds of English, which it moves from person to person. Some of us talk faster than others. And it also introduces the simple view of reading, which we're going to touch on here in just a little bit. But the science of reading is a research method that essentially includes two factors: word recognition and decoding, which is your essential skill of looking at a text and being able to understand what these letter sounds are and how you manipulate them in your mind to comprehend them, as well as leading into comprehension, which is allowing students to make meaning from words that they read.
So this visual is called the simple view of reading. And I kind of wanted to share this with you because it was kind of a powerful visual that they started off our training with. This is a outline by Goff and Tunmer. And it's really not simple when you think about it. But, I always thought, oh, the kids are kind of reading, so they're getting something. But true reading comprehension comes from word recognition and language comprehension, the product of the two of them. Not the addition of the two of them, but product of the two of them. So when we talk about word recognition, we're talking about not only decoding words, but also automatically recognizing words, automatically retrieving them from our memory. When we're talking about language comprehension, we're talking about oral comprehension, whether they can follow oral stories, conversations, figurative language, things like that. And so when we have word recognition and language comprehension, we have reading comprehension. So you can kind of look at the table below that. If we have 0 word recognition and 0 language comprehension, of course, we have 0 reading comprehension. But here's where it kind of got interesting for me is we can have a poor decoder, which is documented by the 0. And we can have a kid who's has a very rich background in oral language. But when you multiply the 0 or poor decoding by the rich language, you get very little reading comprehension. The decoding drastically limits their comprehension. Then when you look at a kid who is a great decoder, they can read words like crazy. So we show that as a 1. When you multiply that by a kid who struggles with oral language, which is a 0, you still get 0 reading comprehension. And even when you have a poor decoder who also struggles with language, then it even significantly lowers their reading comprehension from there. So the only way we can have true reading comprehension is to have the word recognition and the language comprehension together.
And just to further the point that Mrs. Lawson just shared with us, this next slide is going to be some video, so bear with me just because technology is hard. And I'm going to play these. I've got 2 short snippets that I'll click through. The first one that we're going to see is essentially, they're called saccades, but you're going to see big red dots on this page that shows a student with low-level decoding and comprehension skills read through a passage and how much they're struggling to read through it. And then alternatively, I'll show you a student that has high-level skills of decoding and comprehension. So as you're watching this, you can see that a student is really focusing, and then they're going to have to go back, and then they're going to have to back and reread, and then they're going to go through it, but then they're going to have to go back and reread it. Because when we're missing these foundational skills, it's so hard to put these sentences together. And you can see that this is a complicated text. When you're seeing this, and I was going to read it for you, but I chose not to, it's kind of frustrating. And imagine if you're the student that's having to reread that, and you can see as the dots get bigger, that's their brain and their eye tracking, focusing on those words to try to make a meaning out of them. Now, this video is going to show a student that's got more in-depth decoding and comprehension. You can see how much faster they're moving through this passage. And they're able to read it faster. Sometimes we go back just like we would in a normal text, but they're moving through it so much quicker because they've had that additional infrastructure built in word recognition and comprehension. So that was just a quick visual to show you the difference. And I want you to think about the power that these videos give us, because if you're not a teacher, it can be hard to understand what a student goes through. And seeing those slow saccades or eye tracking movements across words is not only frustrating for the student, but it can be frustrating in an instructional moment. And these classes that we're taking, these units, are teaching us how to work through those. I told you technology.
Thank you. As Teresa explained, the simple view of reading a few slides ago, that you cannot have reading comprehension without word recognition and language comprehension. Molly talked to you about the first part of the course that was tied to word recognition. And the other 5 of us, we have moved on to the second half of the course, which is the language comprehension portion. In these units, we are learning how to develop students' spoken language skills, increase their vocabulary knowledge, create a language-rich environment, and develop the connections between reading and writing. This one's interesting. How much time? The next slide is called How Much Time? It shows the breakdown of time needed to complete the 8 units of study within the 56 embedded sessions. Within each session, the activities include reading the book, completing the online portion that has embedded small quizzes, journal entries, and reflections. We also attend 48 hours of Zoom classes, take end of the session and end of the unit quizzes, and we also complete bridged practice assignments. The range given is 137 to 168 hours. But for an old dog like me, I took a lot more time, especially in those units 1 through 4. It was probably about 1.5 to 2 times that long. I had to do a lot of re-watching, rewinding, and cross-checking for information. We were given work beyond for our Zoom hours, but the rest of the activities are on our own time. And I guess I would like to speak up for the people who are going to be taking letters, that I wish that they could also get some time to work beyond. It is a very heavy lift. So.
As we began our journey through the letters courses, we commented to each other several times that we were fortunate to have our IMFD training and materials to help us teach reading the way that we were learning is best for students. The information in letters was very meaty and could very well have been overwhelming if we were starting from scratch. There were many correlations between our IMFD training and the information we were learning in the beginning units of the letters course. Letters helps us really learn why we need to be teaching reading based on the Orton-Gillingham principles. Through letters, we are learning additional strategies and receiving planning tools to help enhance our OG work. The letters course changed the way that each of us teach by helping us really understand the brain science behind how humans learn this unnatural skill of reading printed material. If you don't have knowledge of how the brain works when learning how to read, it's hard to teach reading effectively. We're all big fans of the letters course, despite the crazy amount of time it takes. And we all believe it's one of the very best PD courses we've taken. We appreciate the knowledge we've learned that has helped us all be better teachers, and we appreciate the positive effect that that knowledge has had on our students. Thank you for your time, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just want to illustrate one more question. So at a minimum, 137.5, how much between the hours of 8 to 4 was that? None? Zero. Okay. Wanted to make sure that clarified that point of things because these gals are fantastic. And Mr. Fuller, do you know how many people we have in the district that are doing this letters training that is not between the hours of 8 to 4 or any of their regular in-person hours?
So any of the letters training occurs outside of regular school hours. I just completed my last session of the letters for administrators course. That is much shorter than what the teachers have had to do. That was 4 evenings over the last several months, and we ran for 3 hours each evening. And so that was a much shorter period of time. We just basically got an overview. And so all the letters meetings happened, they started around 4:30, is that right? 4, okay, so they start at 4. I know so we have several cohorts going through that right now. We have the one it's a 2-year course, so it's basically 4 semesters. And so one cohort, I believe, Beth and, oh, so you 3 are involved, so you're basically finishing right now, correct? Okay, we have another cohort that just started last fall. They kind of make a little evening out of it because participants are encouraged to work with each other. And so we've been really fortunate in our district. We've had larger groups sign up for this training. The cost of this training is it's over $2,000 per person. The WDE has been covering this cost, so there's been no cost to our district. We have another cohort of another dozen people that are starting this semester on their 2-year journey, and that is the last cohort that the WDE is paying for. And so that's why we really encouraged all of our teachers to try and sign up for this. And I think it was really well stated when they said that this is the why Orton Gillingham works, and the Orton Gillingham instruction we've been receiving through IMSI in that training is the how to do it. And so it's really interesting how so much, especially that first 4 sessions, really dovetails with everything we've been hearing from our folks with IMSI and the OG training. In fact, there's times when I'm kind of like, okay, I've heard this. Okay, I've heard this. It's nice to hear that reconfirmation from another source. At times, though, I found that I think our staff was a little bit better prepared for letters because of the OG training.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do you have any other questions or comments for these ladies? Okay, thank you, ladies. Okay, board members, just hang out for one more presentation. So now we will move to number 4, which is a presentation by district early literacy teachers.
Good evening. Thank you for taking time to hear about our early literacy program that is brand new to our district. We have had a successful first semester, and we couldn't do this without the support of many. We would like to thank the daycares and preschools that have chosen to be a part of this program for their dedication and hard work. We would also like to thank Mr. Kramer, Mr. Fuller, as well as our IMSC Orton Gillingham coach, Ms. Candy Schneider, for their support as well. Before we start, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Garcia. and here with me are my teammates, Nikki Craig and Ashley Curry. Nikki will now talk about our program goals.
It is time. Maybe I shared the wrong.
Goshen County School District created. Goshen County School District created this program to reach our youngest learners in our community sooner than kindergarten. And we've been tasked with two responsibilities: phonological awareness and oral language. With oral language, we are able to help students build background knowledge, expose them to new words, and therefore increasing their vocabulary. Also, through oral language, we are able to boost their cognitive development and their memories. Our other area of focus is phonological awareness. Phonological awareness is the awareness of sound in our spoken language. It is actually the #1 indicator of early reading success. So it's very important for students to be able to hear and manipulate the different sounds and patterns within our language. Ashley's going to talk a little bit more about phonological awareness.
You may be wondering, what is phonological awareness? Phonological awareness is understanding that our spoken language is made up of words, and our words are made up of individual units of sound. Children need to understand or be able to identify and manipulate these sounds in order to become fluent readers. If you think of phonological awareness as an umbrella, it is made up of 5 component skills arranged in a hierarchy. The first skill is sound awareness, followed by concept of spoken word, rhyme, syllables, and finally, phonemic awareness.
The image you see on the slide is a way of showing how reading comprehension works. In order to comprehend what you are reading, you must be able to recognize words and understand our spoken language. Our early literacy program focuses on both areas. The blue box is where our phonological awareness focus comes in. We are building the foundational skills that students will use when learning phonics in kindergarten. Phonological awareness, like Nikki mentioned, is the #1 indicator of early reading success. The purple box is where we immerse our preschoolers in read-alouds. These reading opportunities help build background knowledge and rich vocabulary, which helps develop oral language skills. These 2 areas represented in the blue and purple boxes together promote successful reading comprehension. Okay, let's talk about what we do each week. Each week, we plan a variety of phonological awareness activities, from initial sounds, rhyming, syllables, and then we incorporate those into every lesson. Daily, we include a story where we expose students to new vocabulary and build their comprehension. In addition, we also work on their social and classroom skills, as far as asking them to practice sitting on the carpet, crisscross applesauce, how to raise their hand, taking turns. Having patience and even sportsmanship when we play games. Learning how to know that sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. Also, we work on gross and fine motor skills. Some of our fine motor skills would be like when we're pushing tiles to count words,
Also, gross motor, a couple examples would be playing red light or green light while we're on our tiptoes. Or maybe even crossing the midline by drawing diagonal lines. We do these lessons 3 times a week. Each lesson is about 30 minutes, and each site is allotted a specific time. So it's consistent for their schedules, and the kids know what time of day it's happening, and they can anticipate our arrival.
Hard to see. But here is an example of our weekly lesson. Each week we focus on a sound of the week. As you can see, we have many engaging activities that build our phonological awareness skills. The kids are learning, they're doing this through song and dance, interactive games and activities, anything to keep them moving and engaged. This is me too. This is a sound awareness game that we use to build sound awareness. In this game, students are listening to directions and listening for the keyword snatch. When they hear the keyword snatch, they race to pick up the object in the middle, and this builds their sound awareness.
Okay, let's talk about our enrollment. Currently, we have about 121 students, ranging from the ages of 1 year old to 5 years old. And this is across 9 different sites, daycares and preschools. And then within those 121 students, approximately 60 of them will be attending kindergarten in our schools next year. Currently, the 9 facilities that have joined us are Wheat Palace Preschool, Torrington Learning Center, Planting Ridge Preschool, Little Bits and Spurs, We Care, Little Daughters Learning Center and Daycare, Burkhart's Busy Bots, Little Tots Daycare, and Lincoln Center. And recently, we also have reached out to other programs in the community, and we've found that at least 5 other sites would like to join our program next year. So we could potentially have up to 14 sites we'd be working with next year.
All right, so in the fall, we started our year off with a baseline assessment. The concepts we assess on are typically mastered in either preschool or in kindergarten. On the graph, the fall assessments are identified in orange, and our January mid-year assessments are in blue. The data represents the 60 students who will be entering kindergarten next year. Looking at the comparison graphs from left to right, the first graph shows results of when our learners were asked to identify pictures of common objects. The next comparison is for the concept of identifying the beginning sounds of each picture. Concept of spoken word is when our learners show us by moving tiles how many words were in each sentence given to them orally. The last 2 rhyming concepts tell us if our learners can determine if sets of words rhyme or not, as well as if they can fill in the blank to complete a rhyme. The data shows the percentages correct for each concept. Overall, we are seeing great growth in all areas. Some areas, such as identifying initial sounds, concept of spoken word, and rhyme recognition, have more than doubled for correct responses this semester alone. The next slide shows 3 concepts that we added to our assessment in January. These skills are typically mastered in kindergarten. We wanted to expose our learners to them and also offer more data to the kindergarten teachers. We will collect spring data on these, so we will have 2 data points to share with the kindergarten teachers.
Over the course of the year, we have been actively engaging with parents in the program through back to school nights, newsletters, and speaking to them with passing in the community. We wouldn't be able to do this program without their support. At this time, I would like to invite Megan Jonas to the podium to share her testimony.
As Ashley mentioned, I am Megan Jonas. Our son is currently enrolled in a preschool that receives services the early literacy program offers through the school district. I cannot find enough words to express our gratitude for this program. Our son is on an IEP for his articulation. While being in school and receiving speech therapy once a week, he was making advances, but has come leaps and bounds with the incorporation of this program. At the beginning of this school year, he could think of rhyming words with assistance from an adult or sibling, but he is now seeking out words that rhyme in everyday conversations on his own without any prompting. His articulation has also improved greatly this year. I can't count how many times in the last 5 months that I've cried happy tears for my son and the improvement he has made in his speech, and I have no doubt that this program is a major part of this. Outside of the educational benefits he has received, he also looks forward to these visits every week, to the point he will count down the days until his quote-unquote pencil school teachers come to class. He loves his teachers at his school, but this has added to the excitement for his day ahead. Plus, I feel having these quote-unquote extra teachers will help him to transition to elementary school easier, where you don't have the same teachers all day long and need to learn and adjust to each different teacher's expectations. As I mentioned before, I cannot say enough good words about this program. Continuing this program will benefit many kindergartners and teachers in the years to come.
Thank you so much, Megan. We really appreciate your support. This year, we've also been working very closely to the site providers and the preschool teachers. We've been working on making adjustments to our program to ensure that we meet all learners' needs. Their support in the relationship with our district has been one of our top priorities. That being said, we went out and we sent out surveys to gather their opinions and testimonies. On this slide, you will see a few of their personal testimonies about the early literacy program, but in your packets, you'll find more attached, and then they are sprinkled throughout the PowerPoint presentation. Please feel free to read those at your leisure.
Again, we just want to say thank you for giving us time to tell you a little bit about our program and what we're doing within the community, and letting us share how it's growing and progressing. We're really excited about it, and I know our facilities are excited as well. And we just look forward to what's to come with this program, and we appreciate you listening. And if you have questions, we have our business card in those packets. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We've also included a brochure to tell you a little bit more about phonological awareness that we have created. And so, yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and happy Valentine's Day.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a couple of follow-up questions for the early lit team? Ladies, approximately how many kids, if we are able to add those 5 sites for next year, about how many additional kids would that add to the program?
We were taking around 51, 50.
Okay. And then could you explain, you talked something very interesting about the midline and moving parts of your body across the midline. Can you explain why that's so important? I think it was Nikki that talked about that.
Crossing the midline helps train your brain to go across from one side to the other. So early on, their brain isn't able to do that. That's why sometimes you'll see kids write backwards, or they have weird writing and things because their brain still has to train from one side to the other side of the body. And so when we do exercises like going across, we're helping their brain to be able to cross and train. So.
Thank you. And members of the board, I just want to tell you, I am beyond impressed with the work these ladies have done. And the work they're doing comes out of the late grant funding that they received. I know there was a question last meeting about Marzano. This will be one of the things that Marzano will evaluate is the success of our early literacy program. And this idea, what really came just from an idea from a conversation I had with Mr. Kramer about a year ago. And so when we hired these ladies, I said, here's the big vision, go figure out how to implement. And I mean, they have, that's literally all they got from me. And the amount of phenomenal work they've done is just incredible. I had the opportunity to go and observe them, so did Mr. Kramer, at a couple of their settings, and just, I was so overwhelmed with how well those kids were doing and how much phenomenal work these ladies have put into this program. And I think you're seeing that in some of the comments from the daycare centers and the parents involved. And I might just add to that, Mr. Kohler, that they actually, this wasn't a program that you could just take out. You guys created this with the help of Andy Schneider from NC this summer, as I understand it, and just completely on your own created it. And I've had a chance to observe twice, and board members, I would encourage you, if you want to go on a visit to watch these programs. It is really something in action. So thank you, ladies, for your work.
Yep, go ahead.
Actually, this is both groups because actually this presentation is something that I was intrigued with. The reason I say that is because my wife and I are trainers of NEAR. If you're not familiar with it, it stands for Neuroscience, Epigenetics, ACEs, and Resiliency. The tie-in with the brain is something that is very, again, to me, intriguing. And in both presentations, you talk about how the brain isn't wired to read. And I'm not sure, I'm taking it that when we're talking about this is a brain that is not exposed to some experiences that some kids experienced, trauma, we're talking malnutrition. So I guess in your trainings, do they touch on any of that regarding brains that may actually be not, or at least exposed to any type of stress, trauma, anything like that?
I think so, Barbara. I think for what I can speak to in my experiences of going through these trainings, that seems to be like it would be another course, which would be trauma-informed learning classrooms. Although we do understand as educators that there are many components that help develop younger students' learning brains. It kind of speaks back to the simple view of reading, where if a student doesn't have any of that oral language comprehension, but they're understanding letters and sounds, they're still not going to have great reading comprehension. And if they haven't had that exposure to those experiences, even if they have been well fed, and even if they do get a good night's sleep and have parents that take extraordinary leaps and bounds to immerse them into those things, we still can't decipher how the brain is going to transform that information to be a proficiency. So when we do have those students that have those trauma experiences, it's going to be another course essentially that we have to learn to develop our skills and help students cross those barriers that are in front of them.
Okay, thank you. You know, and I guess the thing is, I'm not necessarily, you know, those are the extremes. I mean, we're talking middle schoolers under stress just because of the fact that, you know, they're taking a math test, or high schoolers because they're, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend difficulties. Everybody experiences that stress. And again, being able to actually see a presentation on having to go back and read, you know, it could just be the fact that their mind just isn't in the moment in what they're actually reading. It is worrying about things in the past or focusing on what's in the future, and they're not able to actually stay there within that moment to actually comprehend what's being read. So no, I truly appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
If I could add a couple things to that. One of the things that I've learned through everything I experienced with my training classes I've attended from IMSE, about half of the kids out there will learn how to read either naturally on their own through some set of devices or through pretty good classroom instruction. When we start using Fort and Gillingham instructional techniques, we can push that to 95%. And so I think, I like to think of it, we've learned more in the last 50 years about how brain function works than we learned in the previous 500. And so, it's just astonishing. I mean, if you had asked me 2.5 years ago what the science of reading was, I would have told you, oh, you sit behind a two-way mirror and watch kids read a book. Because my knowledge of the science of reading was this. And so, it's really incredible what our teachers are doing and what they're helping our kids do as part of everything that's involved with both the letters training and the MZ training.
Okay, any other comment? Okay. If not, we will move down to letter D, which is our public forum session. Please keep in mind, there's a 5-minute time limit. And we'll start with Bobby Whitman.
I'm Bobby Whitman, I'm a trail. I usually don't come to these, I hate public speaking, but the impact that the 4-day will impact my personal life and anybody that's a cook or a parent going to those 4 days. That's almost a $500 difference a month. My take home check is $1,400. Take $500 from that, that's less than $1,000. Losing our benefits. I'm old enough where I use my benefits. When you're younger, it's not a bigger deal, but when you're older like I am, those benefits are needed. This is the first year that we've actually had all our positions filled as cooks. It's a hard position to fill anyways. And if you go to this, a lot of our cooks will leave because they can't afford to do the job and survive. So I don't know who will feed the kids if we're not there. And we heard that we could do other positions. As of now, I was told we couldn't go like help janitorial or drive bus after school. But now that it's convenient for the board's needs, that we might be able to fill those positions, make up those hours. Feels like I was being used. But I don't know if anybody has, I've been hearing talk of other schools that have the 4-day program. Have anybody reached out to any of the schools in Wyoming that are already on the 4-day to see the pros and cons? I haven't heard anything on it. It also would impact our low-income families. There's a lot of low-income families in Wyoming that I personally know that struggle. Not being able to pay for daycare, not being able to take another day off from work in order to be home for their kids. That extra expense of feeding their kids on that extra day that they're going to be home. They're all concerns to me. And I know that giving more time to the teachers to be able to do their stuff on Fridays or the pros, we got to think of our community and how it's going to affect those low income and the people that live here.
Thank you. Linda Alexander.
Hello, I'm Linda Alexander. I work as one of the cooks at Trail. And I sat through all of these meetings, presentations and forums, and I have noticed a number of things concerning for the school calendar that don't really seem to have been addressed. The low-income employees and low-income families have not been surely considered in the equation. The reality of what is going to happen to these folks has not been faced by the presenting committee. We don't have a daycare problem presently, except for the virtual school days, but if the 4-day school calendar is adopted, you will have created a huge problem. The blame is then put on the low and or single family households who have neither the money to pay the extra private daycare, nor the luxury of being able to take a day off. And, most, if not all, the people who are pushing for the 4-day calendar are making twice or 3 times what these families bring in. There are single parent families in our district that are already facing being dismissed from their jobs because of how many times they've had to stay home from work with their kids because of virtual school days. It isn't even a 4-day school week yet. And I can only imagine what they'll face if they have to take every Friday off. The state of a mess you'd be creating by choosing to adopt a 4-day calendar. It seems that the expectation for the whole town goes past, I don't know. It's unreasonable to expect employers to do that. Another concern that I really have is for the meals that the children of the low income or single parent families won't be getting on Friday. Even if these children go to intervention and practice programs, there are no meals provided. And we can only hope that someone will step in to take care of that problem. But that would be another problem created by the 4-day. The practice program is not a guarantee either. The school has to qualify for the grant. And as I am also a cook, one of the lowest paid people in the payroll, we were considered essential during COVID. So we worked all that time. But apparently we aren't essential anymore. It has become very obvious that there wasn't really any thought of what would happen to us taking if this 4-day was adopted. And at present, it looks like we'll lose our full-time status, health benefits, and retirement if it's adopted the way it is. And unless we choose to make up the hours, we'll lose by working in other capacities because we've been told that we can do that. But we didn't ask for the 4-day calendar. We understand the teachers need something taken off their plates. But I think there needed to be more thought into how these other employees are going to be affected. And if we had wanted to be custodians or childcare people, we would have applied for that. So I feel like we're being forced to do things we really don't want to do to keep our jobs. And I feel like after sitting through all this performance and everything, that 4-day calendar has really been pushed forward without all the bases being covered. And I realize that's because of the deadline with the state and all that, but I think it's been pushed really quickly without everything being considered. And I would like to remind you that the cooks are hard to come by in this town, and I have been approached twice at the college and several times by Valley Christian to come cook for them. Both places are having a very hard time getting their cook positions filled. And our, since COVID, we had not had ours filled until just recently. So it's not like you can find a cook on it. And I don't think you want to add that to the teacher's plates. Big kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Jesperson.
Good evening. As stated, I'm Mark Jefferson. I'm not here to talk about the calendar issue. Just wanted to say I am a former board trustee. I do appreciate and understand what the commitment is, and I do thank you for serving in your capacity. And I really wish you the best in the coming months and even tonight with the decisions you have to make. I commend you for holding a special meeting on January 16th. To vote on the superintendent's contract instead of waiting until a later date. And the importance of that decision was evident in the amount of support poured out by the community toward him. I really think that having your thumb on the pulse of the community, being able to adapt and react and address what your stakeholders have to say is just a trait of good leadership. However, I have one concern that stemmed from that meeting. In the weeks after, I heard second and third hand things that some of you may have said about our teachers, our administrators, your fellow trustees, and even things that happened in your executive sessions. Things that really should not be out in public. Even during that January 16th meeting, your constituents were asking you to work together to make a better education system for our kids. Any progress you make to that end will be hindered if even just one of you is discussing things that should not be out in public. If you haven't already, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully suggest that you review your leadership governance document, specifically sections 1.4, board member conduct, 1.5, board member covenants, and 1.7, process for addressing board member violations. I think it's important for you all to understand that document, how it helps guide your decision making, and how it helps you get to that common goal of making the best education for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Tater.
Members of the board. My name is Michelle Tater. I'm employed by Goshen County School District as a food service worker for the past 25 years. I'm speaking again this evening about the proposed 4-day school week and the impact it will have on all food service employees, bus drivers, and carers in the district. In the past, I've been told by administrators and board members that we do not want our employees' income going backwards. If you decide to implement this without a concrete plan in place for your support staff employees, this is exactly what will happen to us. Could any of you afford to lose $600 or more of your monthly income? Because this is what my colleagues and I will be faced with. You are rushing into a decision when you don't know what the state funding will be for this next school year. Isn't it a possibility that we could be facing major cuts to the budget as in years past? Families are still dealing with the economic effects of COVID and the continuing rise of inflation. Why would the board add anything else that creates more of a financial burden to the families of Goshen County? Please think about the single parent households, grandparents raising their grandkids, families whose income is near or below the poverty level as you consider this life-changing decision tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rebecca Coburn.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Rebecca Cohorn. I'm a parent at Legal Fort Laramie. Really, I expected more community people coming and speaking. And I spoke to several people as I work at Arby's, I have that opportunity about the fact that, hey, we're having a school board meeting, there's a special meeting, come speak. And overwhelmingly, I got the same response. Why? They've already made up their mind. There's no point. Which is pretty sad. Pretty sad that they already think that you've already made up their mind and their constituents aren't listening to you or you're not listening to them. So I would like to ask the board if they have been doing their due diligence and polling their communities, because we were assured that a poll was going to be sent out that would be anonymous. I don't know about you, but it was sent to my email. You have my name attached to my email, so therefore you know how I responded. So that was a lie.
What's that?
Accurate.
Yeah.
I reserve my time.
Please be respectful and don't mention anything that can identify anyone.
I don't believe I did.
I didn't say anything.
I reserve my time.
I don't know who actually spoke.
Carry on.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, my name would be attached to my email. So I don't feel that it was anonymous. I know several people have taken that survey multiple times. So my concern is for the accuracy of your numbers. No option was given for keeping the current calendar, only to vote for the 4-day or the other with the multiple breaks. It's sort of like being asked, would you like to be shot in the head or shot in the heart, right? Neither. It also reminds me of the fact that this was supposed to be available to all. However, I know several people said that they looked and finally found it hidden in their junk file. And that the general community didn't get, the general community did not get to vote. People who own businesses who may or may not have children in the district were not allowed to voice their opinions on this. Now, it also is interesting that all the reasons that you give that we need a 4-day week are counteracted for how you are planning on implementing this. For instance, we need the 4-day school week so that our students don't get behind, while at the same time saying that the teachers aren't teaching the students left in the classroom. So you aren't falling behind. That's not a possibility. You just said teachers are not teaching and students are not in the classroom. We're supposed to go to a 4-day week so that teachers will have more time. Okay, so then on Friday, when these students come in, you now need a lesson plan for little Johnny who's behind, little Sally, who is just there because her parents don't have any other place for her to go, and she's really too young to be by herself. And for Jimmy, who's a little advanced and needs a little more. So that sounds like 3 lesson plans to come up on 1 day of the week, not less. You have teachers that are only going to be from 8 to 10, parents from 10 to 12, and other staff from then on. Sounds to me like you want the cooks to become babysitters. I don't think they signed up for that. Now, I know that you are not meeting the state standards in teaching our children. You are required by state law to publish that on your website. I've been told it's there, but after 3 days of looking, I couldn't find it. And I'm sure you will tell me that you implemented Orton Gillingham and Eureka Math in order to overcome those deficits. However, those 2 programs were not designed for a 4-day week. That's okay, you'll modify it. Well, in my experience, anything that has been modified does not work as well as the original. So it makes me wonder what your results will be. I have also been told that, we care about the students. However, I'm reminded of the last time that this was brought up for discussion, and a principal of a certain school told me that you parents will just figure out your own daycare. That does not sound like caring to me. Now, I have asked the previous 2 meetings if it was possible, instead of changing the schedule, in order to take items off the teacher's plates. The silence for that is deafening. Quite frankly, no answer, no response, no even possibility of maybe taking stuff off. Especially collegials where teachers get together to gripe about the parents. I don't see how that's effective.
Sure. Yeah, I was giving her just a little bit more time, Carlos, because we interrupted her in the middle, so.
Thank you for that. I understand that the teachers need more time. I am not saying that. I'm saying that there are other options. And there have been enough lies and seeming lies told to the public in order to convince the general public that this is best for their students. I don't think it's best for the students. I think it's best for the teachers. And I am a cheerleader for the teachers. However, I think there's other things to be considered. Executive session is a possibility in order to discuss and to verify the things that I have told you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move down to letter E, recommended actions, and our consent agenda. Are there any items on this consent agenda that any board member wishes to pull?
I'd like to pull item A.
Okay. I'm gonna turn your microphone on. I'd like to pull item A. Okay. Any other items, any board members wish to pull? Okay. So we will now vote on the consent agenda with item A being pulled. All those in favor, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented with item A pulled, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, consent agenda passes with item A pulled, so we will now go to item A. And that is approve the minutes of the January 10th, 2023 board meeting, January 16th, 2023 board meeting, January 17th special meeting, and the January 19th special meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Okay, now any discussion?
So the reason I pulled this was, on page 7 of the, top paragraph, the bottom of it is where we're talking about, establish committees referring to secondary grading report card. It had, me as voting no, and I voted yes, and I just want that changed.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So any other discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the January 10th, 2023 meeting, the January 16th, 2023 special meeting, the January 17th special meeting, and the January 19th special meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Okay, we will now move down to number 2, new business, which is letter A, consider acceptance of certified staff resignations submitted. Mr. Mark Heyman, Torrington Middle School Principal, Ryan Foster, District Technology Director, Jeffrey Bowler, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Ryan Boschy, Oki, Art Teacher, Lincoln and Trail, Molly Brown, Elementary Literacy Interventionist, Southeast Elementary, Brenda Sinks, District Occupational Therapist, Andrea Eisenberg, Social Studies Teacher, Southeast Schools, Rob Flock, Special Education Teacher, TMS, Barb Clark, Special Education Teacher, Lincoln Laramie Middle School and High School, Joe Meininger, 5th grade Teacher Trail, and Jenna Cruel, Science Teacher at TMS. Do I have a motion to accept these resignations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all of those in favor of accepting the resignation of these certified staff, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Now letter B, appoint Goshen County Recreation Board members for 2023. We met on Wednesday, February 8th. I met with the rec board and they held interviews. And so the proposed appointments for the 2023 ratification is Wade Brew, first of a 5-year term. Wade Phipps, second year of a 5-year term. Carlos Salcedo, 3rd year of a 5-year term. Dylan Hager, 4th year of a 5-year term. And Steve Fagler, who's in the 5th year of a 5-year term. The recommendation is to approve member appointments and rotation of the 2023 Goshen County Recreation Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is Wade in the 2nd year because he's filling in for someone else?
I don't remember why I'm in the 4th year, so I think I took a place, so some of that going on. He's serving out the remainder of the term in regards to the 4th year.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the appointees or appointments, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Okay, letter C, consider approval of an alternative 4 days, week, or extended year school calendar proposal for the 2023 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
How we even need to take?
Yeah, so we're gonna be voting on the 4-day school week. Yeah. Wade, would you go ahead and make the motion that you're gonna move to, or make the motion to approve an alternative 4-day school week, please?
I'd like to make a motion to consider the approval of an alternate 4-day school week or extended or.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, we will vote by a show of hands on this item. All those in favor of doing an alternative 4-day school week, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-4. Okay. Now down to letter D. Consider approval of offering a hiring incentive for related service providers hired for the 23-24 school year. The recommendation is to approve offering a hiring incentive of $5,000 for new related service providers, including school psychologists, speech language pathologists, and occupational therapists. This is funded through special education 6B fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just had a question. Mainly regarding the speech pathologist. Is that are we looking for a full-time position or are we looking for, because I do know some speech pathologists around the state of contract, they do it over Zoom, or are we in person?
So this would be an in-person speech pathologist. We have been working with a company called Tiny Eye that we've been contracting with. And so we've had the availability in Zoom that has been working, but as we know, there is a preference for face-to-face if all possible, but those services right now, in many of our cases, are being provided via Zoom, and the parent who utilizes Tiny Eye and has used it in the past for speech services, I'm extremely impressed with that service, but also know the power of having the person face-to-face, and so it's our preference to try for that first before we go to the Zoom instructor.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of offering a hiring incentive for related service providers hired for the 23-24 school year, $5,000, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter E, consider approval of proposed job description for academic and behavioral specialist. This job description is presented based on the need to update the Trail Elementary Dean of Students position to accurately reflect the position duties and also meet the specifications of the WDE consolidated grant. The recommendation is to approve the proposed job description for academic and behavioral specialist as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah. Lori, were you able to get that? Yeah.
So this is one position, correct?
That's correct. We've had this position in place. The reason for the change in the job description was to match the grant. And so this position has actually been serving Trail for the last 2 years. And so the reason for the new adoption is some of the things within the grant, changing vocabulary to that better. So if we were to have that reviewed, it matches extremely well with what we would have and providing at that new student's position.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the proposed job description for academic and behavioral specialist for Trail Elementary Dean of Students, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter F is to consider approval of proposed job description for community project manager. This job description is presented as a requirement of the Project Aware Grant, which was approved by the Board of Trustees in January 2023. The district is required to employ a project manager who will train district staff, increase mental health literacy, and to provide assistance to students and families dealing with behavioral or mental health issues. The recommendation is to approve the proposed job description for community project manager as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have some questions, please. Okay, this position, is this a new position that's being proposed?
That would be correct, because it is part of the Project Aware Grant. We haven't been recipients of the Project Aware Grant before, so this would be a new position for the district.
Okay, this position, is it gonna be paid out of the grant?
That would be correct.
And so this position will end at the end of December 31st, 2024?
When the grant expires, that would be the time, just as with any other grant funded position that we have within the district. When the funder for the grant is no longer present, and we have deemed it that it is not an essential portion of the general fund, then that would be a position that would no longer exist unless we would choose to fund it through the general fund. So yes, you'd be correct.
Okay, so we have already applied for that grant then?
Yes, so we accepted it at last month's board meeting.
Okay, have we already started in the other deadlines? Because it looks like we're supposed to establish a pathway for the individuals to do that, and then a tracking mechanism as well.
Correct. We have been meeting with the providers of the grant. We have a weekly Zoom meeting that we've been consulting with the Wyoming Department of Education.
Do we need to put into this agenda item that position as of now is only until December 2024?
When we have the contract issued for each of these positions, it's labeled in that contract that the teacher signs for any grant funded position that is identified as a grant funded position.
Okay. And then we also have to have all the entire staff trained by the end of that time.
That is correct. That is a component of the year where we have staff trainings within that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the proposed job description for community project manager for the Project Aware Grant, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter G, consider approval of annual renewal of Power School agreement. The recommendation is to renew the annual Power School for maintenance, support, and cloud hosting of student information system in the amount of $18,804.46 from April 1st, 2023 to April 1st, 2024. This is funded through the general fund technology budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the annual renewal of Power School agreement, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carried. Letter H, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of drone equipment for the TH computer science classes from Amazon in the total amount of $10,973.18. funded through the cutting edge grant. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the purchase of drone equipment for THS computer science classes in the amount of $10,973.18, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstaining.
Item carries. Okay, letter I, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of a tilt skillet for Torrington Middle School Food Services from Bar Green Ellingson in the total amount of $28,705. This is funded by the WDE Nutrition Equipment Grant. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the purchase of a tilt skillet for Torrington Middle School Food Services in the amount of $28,705, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter J, consider approval of proposed district policy 6120, temporary virtual education, is presented on introduction and first reading. The recommendation is to approve proposed district policy 6120, temporary virtual education, as presented on introduction and first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
The total visual education days are not to exceed 50% of the school days. So basically, any student doesn't want to go to school is going to spend 87 days doing virtual school. I kind of think that might be abused a little bit. I can understand it if it's snow days, or let's say there's been a hospitalization or an illness or something. But almost 50, half of the education, it says under 50%, which would be like 49, but half of it will be virtual education. That's kind of discouraging when we're talking about spending more time in classrooms with the students so they get proper instruction. I would really like to see a report each month. On this proposal after it goes through, I'd like to see a report each month of how many students are taking that virtual education monthly so that doesn't get abused. That's just my question.
Mr. Chair, can you clarify, Trustee Peterson, which portion you're discussing in relation to that? I think I may not be understanding kind of what you're referring to.
Well, it's on page 1 of 3. It says temporary virtual education. And it says the majority of students or all students are receiving instruction outside of their physical classroom through the virtual delivery. TVE days, temporary virtual education days, must account for less than 50% of the total number of school days in any given school year. In-person instructional days shall account for the majority of the school days in any given school year for all children and teachers.
So what that is referring to is actually the districts going to temporary virtual education days. That's referring to saying that we can't, as a district, have less than 50% of our total days of 175, or on the basis of an alternative calendar, 50% of those days we cannot determine are virtual education days. Not necessarily the individual student getting to choose to be a virtual education day.
Down under criteria requirements, it says course instruction delivery to students who do not want to attend in person or for a limited number of days. That's right under the next paragraph.
But if you look right above that, the district may use TVE in the following situations.
Right.
So again, the individual student doesn't get to decide to use virtual education days. It's the district that determines those. And so if we as a district determine that we want to go with a temporary virtual education. What that's saying is that we do not want to attend in person with a limited number of days, only if we would approve temporary virtual education in the district.
Okay. The wording makes it sound confusing. Thank you.
Would that be like when we had the COVID, you had kids at home? So that would be used for?
Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the proposed district policy 6120 temporary virtual education as presented on introduction and first reading, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter K, consider approval of contracting with JJ Pratt Enterprises LLC for the 2023 gym floor screening and refinishing. The recommendation is to approve contracting with JJ Pratt Enterprises LLC, J&J Floors for the 2023 screening and refinishing of gym floors of Trail, TMS, THF, LFL, main and practice gyms and Southeast main and practice gyms in the total amount of $18,643.90. Do I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of contracting with JJ Pratt Enterprises LLC for 2023 gym floor screening and refinishing in the amount of $18,643.90, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter L, consider approval of contracting with Home Lawn Services LLC for 2023 district weed control sterilant and fertilizer application. The recommendation is to approve contracting with Larry Stoker, DBA Home and Lawn Services LLC for the 2023 sterilant weed control and fertilizer application in the total amount of $61,560.92. This is funded through general fund maintenance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving contracting with Home and Lawn Services LLC for the 2023 district weed control sterilant and fertilizer application in the amount of $61,560.92, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. We will now move down to letter 3, topics for discussion. Real quick, I have a couple things. First, I want to thank the Trail elementary school staff for this fruit basket. All of you board members grabbed some fruit and it's for the entire board. So thank you, Trail elementary school staff. The next thing I wanted to talk about really quick, I got a letter from the Hot Springs County School District number 1. They're having a board work session in Thermopolis on April 6th and 7th for Professional Learning Communities Conference is what they're calling it. Anybody that's interested in attending that, it's open to board members, superintendents, or administrators. Please let me know and we'll get signed up.
Can you give me those dates again?
6 and 7. April 6th and 7th, yeah. Okay, and the final thing is we need to construct a committee to look at our new grading system. I would like to have 4 board members on that committee, and I'm asking for volunteers right now. If 4 people want to be on that committee and want to volunteer, okay. I got Justin, Bob, Chris, and Carlos.
Yeah. You
Or
want
did-
to go ahead. I'm on a few.
You guys have to arm wrestle for it, so.
We won't do that.
I don't, yeah, it
Go
doesn't
ahead.
matter.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it's Dylan. Okay. Those are our 4. Any other things that board members wish to discuss right now. This is the open forum, so.
I have a question on that, for that committee. Are we going to also include some teachers and parents in that too?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I would like to actually, talk about the suggestion of us meeting and, reviewing the governance packet. I think that that is something that we need to do as soon as possible. So if we could leave here with a date, that would be greatly appreciated.
Are you thinking like a work session, Carlos? Is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And since it kind of pertains to that, if we could add in the work session a topic of discussing maybe like our current board vision statement.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that.
We currently have in the works to try to get strategic planning set up as well, so that might fall into the strategic planning portion. The board is currently working on setting up a workshop to discuss strategic planning, so discussing vision will fall into that.
So my question would be, we don't have much time left in February. Do you guys want to do it in March, or what works for everybody? I'm open to whatever.
I would like to be able to actually see the first one or first couple of weeks of March.
First couple weeks of March. Okay.
Along with that, I guess, when did we do our board evaluation?
I think we started, I don't know, did we ever finish it? Or?
Mr. Chair, we went through and had the discussion of the number of items. There were ones that we were going to, in work session, go over. We had not completed that entire process, but what we did last year was we started that process in May. I know trustee Taylor, you possibly have a suggestion to possibly start that earlier in that self-evaluation.
I would. Yeah, if we could.
Okay.
Do you have a suggestion of when you'd like to see that sent out to other trustees?
I would like to be able to actually say that if we get the work session in March, that it be done shortly after. I mean, we're talking, yeah, still in March, if at all possible.
So is there a day that works best? I'm looking at like that first full week in March. The 6th is Monday.
Your regular board meeting is on the 7th of that, because there is the break, the school break the very next week is why we have that date moved up. And it's taking place on the first Tuesday.
Okay, do we want to do board meeting and then do the work session on like Thursday? Would that work for everybody? Okay. So we'll leave it. What time are we thinking? Want to go earlier than 7? Like 6? Okay. Let's do March 9th at 6 o'clock. Okay. Anything else any board members wish to discuss? Okay, you have something doing?
I'll do it right after the meeting, so give me 1 second right after the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so that brings us to letter F, future meetings. The next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, March 7th, 2023, at 7 p.m. And number 2, the April board 2023 board meeting was also rescheduled due to upcoming school closures and billing documents needed for agenda preparation, and will be on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. And with that, we will move to letter G, which is the superintendent's report.
Let's cover my regular items and they usually cover, attendance being one. Unfortunately, board members, you can't see it, but it is on the screen. The attendance data for the month of January, as you can see, the top three, LaGrange, Lingo Fort Laramie High School, Lingo Fort Laramie Elementary had increased their enrollment from the previous month. And the previous year, we are significantly ahead. So we are slightly down, a couple of students at the Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School, Lincoln Elementary, up at Southeast Elementary, slightly down at Southeast High School, Southeast Junior High, Trail Elementary, Farmington High School, Farmington Middle School, and up at Platte River School by 4 students. We are still up from the previous date of last year, about 47 students from the previous year. Just for clarification purposes, I did want to clarify in regards to the survey. Qualtrics is our vendor. Yes, emails are sent, but there is not data that is housed by the district in relation to identification. We are unable to identify any individuals that submitted their information via survey. Also in reference to that, in regards to people being able to do it multiple times, there was typically a 0.08% time period in which the same device was used to take a survey twice. Statistically, this is a very minimal data array. Also, in those cases, the results of those surveys could be from individuals in a household in which the husband and the wife share a device, and so therefore we did not want to deny them the opportunity to provide their input. But again, 0.08%, and it's statistically mute in regards to the results. So the results are valid. Qualtrics is a company that I appreciate their work and have done this nationwide and worldwide and do an excellent job of providing accurate data. I want to again appreciate Ms. Laura's work on the survey because it was extremely accurate and well done. The work of the committee was very well done, and I appreciate it, and look forward to implementing the 4-day school week in the coming school year.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn.